It is that time of year where it's time to recap the year in WWE. Now, I know WWE has brought back the Slammy Awards the last few years around the WrestleMania season, as typically the WWE calendar goes from April to April. But it is the end of the year, so we have to take 2025 as a whole in totality. And as always, with these WWE Slammy Awards recap for me, these are the categories we're breaking down today. Male Superstar of the Year, Female Superstar of the Year, Match of the Year, OMG Moment of the Year, PLE of the Year, Return of the Year, Feud of the Year, and Breakout Star of the Year. And with many of these categories, I do have runner ups that I will talk about as well. So let's kick it off with the male superstar of the year. And to me, there's absolutely no question who this could be. I tried my hardest to think of runner ups and I came up with a few names, but none of them even come close to the never seen 17, the last road champion, now a Grand Slam champion, and now no longer a active professional wrestler in WWE. Who would have thought those words would have ever come out of my mouth? But when he announced it in July 2024, we knew it was coming. The Eras Tour for men is over. But without a doubt, John Cena is the male superstar of the year. I talked about this ordered earlier when we talked about the top 10 sports stories of the year, so there's no surprise. Not only was the John Cena retirement tour to me the number one thing on my mind in sports this entire year, but this year in WWE was about two superstars. It was about John Cena and my first runner up on this list, which is main event Jey Uso, who yeeted his way through John Cena over the top rope to win the 2025 Royal Rumble. Went on to win the World Championship with Gunther, so he tried to make a superstar out of Jey Uso at WrestleMania 41. Jey Uso's momentum has slowed down this year in WWE, but again, outside of John Cena, who accomplished more in WWE in 2025 than Jey Uso. You can make an argument Gunther, who, at the time of this recording, I have not seen the Gunther versus John Cena last time is now match, but I'm assuming that Gunther beats John Cena, and it could be by submission. And Gunther goes on to retire not only John Cena, but Goldberg in the same year. That's a big thing on Gunther's list. And now we can go into 2026 looking to challenge potentially for the World Championship the way Brock Lesnar dominated The Undertaker WrestleMania 30. I think they're going to treat Gunther beating John Cena the way Brock Lesnar defeated The Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania. Cody Rhodes, is the biggest star on SmackDown. He had a good year, though not a great year. It was surrounded by feuds, mostly with John Cena and Drew McIntyre, with a little bit sprinkled in of Kevin Owens at the beginning of the year as they finished off that feud with a great ladder match at the Royal Rumble. You had CM Punk, who became a two-time world champion this year, once at SummerSlam, and then obviously once at Saturday Night's Main Event, defeating Jey Uso. He is the current world champion. He's been a fixture on WWE programming this year. Seth Rollins, because of obviously what he did, forming the Vision, turning on Roman Reigns and CM Punk with all aiming at WrestleMania, then having the ruse of the century at SummerSlam. Obviously, unfortunately, right now he's injured due to the coast to coast spot with the shoulder at Crown Jewel against Cody Rhodes. And then Braun Breaker. Really, again, I thought he was the breakout star of 2024, but he broke out even more this year when he joined the Vision. He was in that Intercontinental Championship Fatal 4-Way match that involved Penta, Dominic Mysterio, and Finn Balor at WrestleMania. The next night joins the Vision, and Braun Breaker has skyrocketed so much that not only now, along with Bronson Reed, is he a co-leader of the Vision, but on the first Raw of 2026, he is a World Championship match. So again, Breaker, Rollins, Punk, Rhodes, Gunther, Jey Uso are my runner-ups, but easily this year in WWE was all about John Cena. Female superstar of the year was hard because I'll be honest, this was not a great year for females in the division, in my opinion, in WWE. Tiffany Stratton had a long run as the WWE Women's Champion, though it was mostly feud with matches against Jake Girl and Nia Jax. There was almost no differential in it. She did fight Trish Stratus at Evolution in a pretty pointless match. Stephanie Valkyrie came on the scene right after WrestleMania. She is now the Women's World Champion. They're trying to give La Primera a push, but I don't think she was a central figure in WWE on Raw for the entire year. Jade Cargill, the heel turn, I think it's helped her tremendously. I think she could have a great 2026, but I don't think she's there yet. Naomi, in my opinion, the heel turn was tremendous. She really knocked it out of the park, completely changed her character. She won Money in the Bank. She cashed in Money in the Bank. She had the greatest thing going in the women's division this year, and then she got pregnant. And the Women's World Championship has never been the same, and I don't think anybody had more of a successful year than Naomi. But she's been out of action since July, so it's hard to make her the female superstar of the year. Rhea Ripley has always had, you know, um, her case. She's the biggest star in the women's division, but she held the women's championship from um January when she beat Liv Morgan on the first Raw on Netflix, to then March when she lost the championship to Io Sky, and then she's been sort of floating around the Women's World Championship picture, but it feels like her year has taken a downturn as opposed to 2024. She just recently teamed up with Damian Priest to take on Aleister Black and Zelina Vega on SmackDown. And now, for the winner, in my opinion, of the female superstar of the year, I don't love her, but WWE has pushed her to the moon. She's been in almost every PLE this year. She had a long women's championship reign. She had a great feud with Rhea Ripley that led to the incredible match at Evolution 2. I think Io Sky, again, a lot like Jey Uso, where I think WWE, tried to make Jey Uso go from a tag team to a single star this year in the men's division. They did that, in my opinion, successfully for a lot of the fans out there of Io Sky. I don't think she's a great talker. Again, I don't think she's a great wrestler. The problem is she has been the most fixture on WWE programming this year, and she goes from the tag team of Damage Control to winning the Women's World Championship to being in that triple threat match at WrestleMania with Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair to defending the title all the way to Evolution 2, where she loses the championship against Rhea Ripley and Naomi in that classic match that main evented. She's in the triple threat match at SummerSlam. She's in War Games. Again, I think she's been the biggest fixture in the women's division this year. Tiffany Stratton, again, I think has been the fixture on SmackDown, but she had a forgettable title reign. Naomi would have been the choice, but she's been out 6 months. So if it's a half a year award, it goes to Naomi. The full year, in my opinion, goes to Io Sky. Now, let's get to my candidates for match of the year. For me, the match of the year in WWE, there was a lot of them that I could put up there. But John Cena versus Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam, for me, which followed up their bad WrestleMania match. And if you listen to John Cena on the Bill Simmons podcast, I mean, John Cena is just so smart. The way that he articulates these words. We talked about the fact that I'm a heel going into WrestleMania, that I knew my story with Cody Rhodes was not over after WrestleMania. So we had to make our WrestleMania match different than what we knew we were going to do at SummerSlam, which was turn me back into a babyface. And we had Super Cena come out. It was the first time John Cena came out with the colors, since earning heel. The tremendous pop. You had the little booze for Cody Rhodes, but Cody Rhodes got them back on his side as the match went on. If you guys listen to my John Cena's Top 10 Matches special that I did with Jalen Sandvik and Michael Reiner, we add this match on one of the lists of John Cena's greatest matches of all time, which to me, again, proves that John Cena and Cody Rhodes, this was the match of the year in WWE. It had all of the spots you wanted, the Avalanche AA, the Avalanche Crossroads, the multiple kicks outs, the who the hell is going to win this match, John Cena shaking the hand of Cody Rhodes at the end. It was an incredible poetic story, and for me, easily the match of the year. So other John Cena matches I have on this list is him and AJ Styles at Crown Jewel, which was a love letter to professional wrestling. The great match he had with Logan Paul at Clash in Paris, which I think is a little bit forgotten about, but they put on an absolute show. They tore the house down. I thought it was the best match on that card. You have again, I mentioned it. I think one of the best women's matches I've ever seen. Two of them. Rhea Ripley and Io Sky at Evolution 2. Remember Io Sky doing that dive when they went to the outside on the concrete floor. You have the greatest triple threat women's match I think I've ever seen. Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, Bianca Belair. They kicked off night two of WrestleMania 41 with a bang. I think it was the best match of the entire WrestleMania 41 weekend. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in a Elimination Chamber, the unsanctioned match, which turned out to be, to date, potentially the last match of Kevin Owens' career. They used unshaped barbed wire. It was physical violence. It was, in Toronto at the Rogers Center, who also witnessed Game 7 of the World Series this year, adding to that environment. You have the surprise ability to me of Jey Uso and Gunther on that Monday Night Raw, June 9, 2025 in Phoenix, Arizona, where Gunther took the World Championship unexpected from Jey Uso in a match that was way better than a WrestleMania 41 encounter. For me, the Becky Lynch Lyra Valkyria, no disqualification, no count out. There must be a win. Final match at SummerSlam for the Women's Intercontinental Championship really made that championship mean something. They had a great feud in the spring post WrestleMania after Becky Lynch turned on Lyra after they won the Women's Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania 41. And then the TLC match on SmackDown that was after WrestleMania 41 between DIY, the Motor City Machine Guns, and the Street Profits was commercial free and maybe one of the rare ladder matches in SmackDown television history that have a multi-team. And of course, this led to the 16 match at SummerSlam, which I didn't think was good as this one. But those three tag teams wanted to be on WrestleMania 41. They were not given the spot. They had to prove to the upper management that they needed a spot at SummerSlam after what they did on that SmackDown show. Now, for the OMG moment of the year, to be honest with you, there really is no runner up. The winner is the Cena heel turn. Now, we did have a lot of OMG moments this year. The Cena face turn, which came on SmackDown, which was out of nowhere. It's like, yeah, Cody Rhodes, I'm a babyface now. We went, holy shit. It was obviously during the time of Big Brother over the summer, and I kept saying, Julie, tell the house guests that John Cena turned face. Naomi and Seth Rollins both cashing in the Money in the Bank the way they did. We all thought Naomi was going to go after Tiffany Stratton and Jade Cargill in the WWE Women's Championship. Instead, she goes to Raw and cashes in on the Women's World Champion. That's after losing to Jade Cargill earlier in the night in that no holds barred match against Seth Rollins, the Roots of the Century. I thought it was real. What could I say? We were all shocked. And then obviously the two turns with Paul Heyman, right? Paul Heyman joining the Vision, which I did call going into WrestleMania 41. Now, I didn't think he was going to join Seth Rollins in a group, but they formed the Vision. And then the Vision turning on Seth Rollins after Crown Jewel. It's like, what the hell just happened? And then Becky Lynch joins the Vision at Clash in Paris. Remember at that point, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed were fighting with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso. They got barred from the building. Seth Rollins was in a fatal four-way with LA Knight, CM Punk, Jey Uso. Um, and then Becky Lynch comes down and helps him at the end to win. But that's an OMG moment, but nothing could compare to the John Cena heel turn, where I had people at work who don't even watch wrestling tell me they saw videos on TikTok of kids crying because of John Cena and they did not understand why. This was maybe the most shocking moment since Hulk Hogan and wrestling turned heel in WCW, and this maybe was the greatest heel turn of all time. Not saying the heel run was great, the heel turn. Iconic moment that will never be forgotten in wrestling. We will never forget where we were. March 1st, the Elimination Chamber. We'll never forget the turn of John Cena's face. We'll never forget the pop of John Cena kicking Cody Rhodes in the balls. We'll never forget John Cena using the watch to attack Cody Rhodes and Michael Cole screaming that John Cena turned into a piece of shit hypocrite. It was absolutely perfect. I'll never forget that night. Ever. I was up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning just watching TikTok reactions of people losing their mind of John Cena turning heel turn. It won the OMG Moment of the Year that night. And nothing, and I repeat, nothing would have topped it. How about the POE of the year? For me, it was SummerSlam. I thought it was one of the best SummerSlams ever. I'm not going to put it up there with 2024 SummerSlam because I'm biased because that SummerSlam took place in Cleveland, Ohio. But the POEs were not as strong as they were in 2024. So there's not a crazy amount of this list. I thought the Royal Rumble again with Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes, the ladder match, the two Royal Rumble matches, the men's match with Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, John Cena was one of the most star-studded Royal Rumbles of all time. The Elimination Chamber with the John Cena heel turn, the Elimination Chamber match itself, which obviously started the Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Roman Reigns triple threat match storyline going into WrestleMania, the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, no holds barred match. I thought Evolution 2, with no expectations, completely knocked it out of the park. There was no bad match on that show. And again, I thought it was one of the stronger PLEs WWE put on in a long time. It was an entertaining show from top to bottom for me. And then Crown Jewel, right, where you have, Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes in a fantastic match. You have John Cena and AJ Styles giving their love letter to wrestling. You have Roman Reigns and Bronson Reed in that Clash in Paris street fight where Bronson Reed goes over Roman Reigns. Another strong show. But for me, CM Punk and Gunther was a top match this year. The John Cena Cody Rhodes match, another top match this year. You have the TLC match for the tag titles, which completely knocked it out of the park. Again, Lyra and Becky completely knocked it out of the park. Randy Orton and Joey Roll against Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre was a fun encounter. Everything on this card I thought worked. I thought it was the WrestleMania version of what WrestleMania 41 should have been this year. Even Jey Uso and Roman Reigns kicking off the entire weekend against Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. Tremendous match. So my nod for POE of the year goes to SummerSlam. For return of the year, there was three big returns this year. One of them was Brock Lesnar, who nobody expected, but people got pissed off because of the lawsuit and everything. And Brock Lesnar has really only been back two times. At WrestlePalooza, beats John Cena and is involved in War Games. Doesn't have as much of an impact, I would argue, as my return of the year. So that's why he doesn't win it. And then AJ Lee, but again, she's been part time. We all kind of expected it once Seth Rollins returned, and they did the whole angle with him and CM Punk and Becky Lynch getting involved in Clash in Paris, leading to that return, leading to the mixed tag match at WrestlePalooza, which arguably I should have been put on there as well as a match of the year candidate, because that was by far and easily a great match, maybe the best mixed tag match of all time, and the best match on that WrestlePalooza card. But for me, the ruse of the century. Some people called it, I understand that, but the impact it had on WWE television with Seth Rollins dropping the crotch is an iconic moment that people will talk about again for years. WWE was in a weird space this year where they went more for the moment, right? The John Cena heel turn, the Jey Uso winning the World Championship at WrestleMania, Seth Rollins cashing in Money in the Bank, Naomi cashing in Money in the Bank, and never really following up. But Seth Rollins winning the World Championship, getting the Vision back in his corner, and along with that, by the way, I have Seth Rollins and CM Punk from start to finish, in my opinion, easily being the feud of the year. I think without a doubt, they started off the first Monday Night Raw on Netflix. They went a couple weeks into the Steel Cage. It carried over to the Royal Rumble. It carried over to the Elimination Chamber. Carried over into WrestleMania. I mean, these guys have been fighting on and off singles matches, tag team matches, triple threat matches the whole year until Seth Rollins got hurt. And I thought it was going to continue in a War Games if Seth Rollins did not get hurt. I think Gunther and Jey Uso had a good rivalry over the World Championship. You can make a case for that. Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch, I thought, along with Rhea Ripley and Io Sky, was the feud of the year in the women's division. I gave it more to Lyra and Becky, more so than Rio and Io, because now Rio and Io are all of a sudden friends. They had good matches. It never was really a true feud. It was about could Rhea Ripley defeat Io Sky. Lyra and Becky absolutely elevated the Women's Intercontinental Championship to its peak. That's why it's in consideration. And obviously, John Cena, Cody Rhodes, because it is the main story in the men's division all year long with the John Cena heel turn and Cody Rhodes getting the belt back at SummerSlam. And finally, the breakout star of the year. Now, this may be a little bit controversial. But to me, the winner, and again, because I went with Braun Breaker last year and Bronson Reed was on the list last year, I wanted to go with different stars, right? We saw Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed sort of elevate themselves last year going into the year. Bronson Reed has done good with the vision, but I wouldn't call him necessarily the breakout star of the year. I think it's Dominic Mysterio because I think Dominic Mysterio should be a babyface. I mean, he went from getting absolutely booed out of the building to you can't wrestle to you can't talk to F you, Dom, you're a piece of shit to dirty Dom, dirty, dirty Dom, dirty, getting hands all over the place. Dominic Mysterio acting like the next Eddie Guerrero. And again, outside of his matches with John Cena, he's getting cheered completely. And now that Liv Morgan is back, I do think Dominic Mysterio in 2026 is going to be a major babyface player. I could see by this time next year, maybe even Dominic Mysterio, depending on who the world champion is, being in world championship contention. The other runner-ups for me are against Stephanie Valkyrie, who really was the one breakout star in the women's division for me. You can make an argument Lash Legend as well, but she just was a recent come up. And then Ilya Dragunov, who's returned with a bang with the United States Championship Open challenges. He's made the United States Championship relevant again, along with Sami Zayn. But I wouldn't call him a breakout star necessarily. But there wasn't a ton of options out there for me. To me, it was easily Dominic Mysterio. The transition for him to win the Intercontinental Championship by pinning his Judgment Day match at WrestleMania 41 and then to not do the heel turn yet. Yet for Dominic Mysterio to instantly become cheered, for that crowd to cheer him for winning the championship at WrestleMania, to me it was a major turning point in the career of Dirty Dom. And I think he's going to skyrocket the way Braun Breaker did this year, like I picked him to last year. I think 2026 will be the year where we see Dominic Mysterio elevate himself into that main event spot consistently. So my male superstar of the year goes to John Cena. My female superstar of the year goes to Io Sky. My match of the year goes to John Cena versus Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam. My OMG moment of the year goes to the John Cena heel turn. My PLE of the year goes to SummerSlam. My return of the year is Seth Rollins at that SummerSlam event. Speaking of Seth Rollins, the feud of the year I have it being him against the Second City Saints, CM Punk, and my breakout star of the year I have being Dirty Dominic Mysterio.